Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim, and Chris. On today's Tour Catch Up,
Sinner secures his first ATP Finals title.
GB advanced to the semi finals of the Billie Jean King Cup.
And we prepare ourselves for Rafa's retirement as the Davis Cup finals get underway.
Kim, Chris, today is the 18th of November, and we are here to catch up on the week in tennis at Tennis Weekly HQ. Jannik Sinner capped off a stellar season with his maiden ATP Tour Finals title in Turin as he defeated Taylor Fritz in the final. Elsewhere, Great Britain, led by Emma Raducanu and Katie Boulter, are through to the final four in the Billie Jean King Cup. And Rafael Nadal is in Malaga as he prepares for the final event of his career at the Davis Cup Finals. Tissue boxes at the ready. It's going to be an emotional ride. And guys, I guess the question on everyone's lips, or the question on my lips anyway, is are we going to see him play for one final time?
Surely we've got to. I mean, we're all eagerly anticipating it. And it might not be one more final time, Joe. It could be several because who
Ooh.
knows? Spain could go on a bit of a run here.
Are you
They're
feeling
at
confident,
home.
Kim?
You're
They're
thinking
buoyed
singles and
by
doubles?
Rafa. I don't know. I'm not sure how confident I actually am, but I'm sure we'll see him take to the
He's
court. I
not
don't
doing all
think he's
these
there as a
practice courts and
cheerleader.
putting it up on Instagram for not to play, surely.
Exactly. I think he would regret not stepping onto the court, surely, unless he
Hmm.
really doesn't feel ready, because then he wouldn't want to negatively impact the Spanish team's chances. But I think surely we're going to see, even if it's a doubles match, I think he's going to take to the court. Let's hope so,
Fingers
anyway.
crossed.
But I do have my box of tissues at the ready.
Yes.
So I've got them ready to go for tomorrow,
Is it like a Spanish
regardless.
flag type box? Is it like
No,
branded in this?
it's
Oh, is it
sadly
just like
it's
a?
just from a local supermarket.
Oh, okay, all right,
Okay.
okay.
This is not
No, that I
sponsored.
no, not sponsored. Other tissue brands are available. I don't want to
Yes.
mention just one.
Is any reason you have the tissue so close? Did you see anything else this week that almost brought a tear to your eyes, Kim?
Well, I did see some players retire actually, although I'm ever so sorry, to them, but they're not ones that I would necessarily cry over
Okay.
retiring. But they did have a ceremony at the ATP finals for them. We had Dominic Thiem, which is quite sad, obviously,
hmm
retiring this year. We had John Millman, João Sousa,
hmm
and Ivo Karlovic retiring. I thought Karlovic
Ivo
had already
Ivo
Karlovic.
retired, to be
Karlovic.
fair.
When did he last play a match? I'd have
Well,
no
good
idea.
point. I'm
Must be
not
this
sure,
year.
but they had a send off on Friday. They all went onto the court, had a little ceremony. And there's a nice photo of them all. And then they've got sort of like a nice picture frame of their finest moments, which they can put on their,
Some
bedroom wall at
bigger
home.
pictures than the other Kim, or no?
Well, Karlovic is, I mean, he's taller than the others, I
Yes.
suppose. But
Yes.
He's a
um,
lot taller. I mean, well,
in
we
the
sort of
photo,
already
it's
know
really
this, but
obvious, isn't
in the
it?
photo, it is genuinely obvious. I just wanted to say, I mean, I like it. I know we get these sorts of ceremonies always at the end of the season, but putting Dominic Thiem into this group of players, he deserves better. Do you not think?
Yeah.
He has qualified to play this before, obviously, and won a slam. So maybe he'll get a little extra send off later. I don't know, but it's always surprising. It's almost like the Oscars where they say like who's
Yeah.
passed away this year, and you think, oh yeah,
I
he's
will
still
say,
playing.
looking at the photo, I actually think it's better than the Turin
Their suits,
final eight photo. Yeah,
yeah,
it's just it's
their
Yeah,
suits
there's
are
actually a little
better.
bit more variety going on, and I'd say Zhao Souza actually he's looking he's got the smart casual look quite well down. I think.
he does
Yeah,
indeed.
absolutely nailed it. But Carlos Bernardes, the umpire, is also has also retired. So
Yeah,
that's a shame. He's been around for a long time.
Was he not
Uh,
invited to the into the ceremony at the
maybe he was
ATP final of the
overseeing it
players?
as the umpire.
Yes.
8,000
yeah.
matches in one retirement ceremony.
So yes, well, whatever he goes on to do next post tennis, we wish them well. We wish them all well. But
Yes.
what's been catching your eye this week, Joel? Do you want to go
Well,
first?
it is something I have brought up before, and I know we've all been excited about it ever since I announced it. It was Diego Forlan, the former
I thought you were going to say your
footballer.
mustache, Joel,
Oh well,
again.
no, I mean I bring that up every week, but no, Diego Forlan, the former professional footballer, he was announced he was going to be playing doubles on the ATP Challenger circuit with Argentine Federico Coria. Now, this match happened this week. And what was so incredible about it was Diego Forlan. He went on and what? No, he didn't. It was, it was. I mean, it was incredible to see. But yeah, Forlan and Correa they lost in the Uruguay Open 6-1, 6-2. But having said that, watching some of the highlights, I was pretty impressed with how Diego
Mm.
Forlan has transitioned to a tennis court, and he had quite a tasty double-handed backhand.
Ooh, will we see him again on a court, do you think?
Ooh, if the I don't know if the promotional package is right from the Uruguay
Okay.
Open, I reckon. But I don't think he disgraced himself, to be honest. I think he showed quite a good level and a sportsman who can play at an elite level in two sports. I mean, that's just impressive in itself to me, regardless of the result.
Yes, I'm sure all the Diego Forlan fans out there enjoyed it, nevertheless, despite the loss. But Chris, what's caught your eye this past week? Is there anything of
Wow.
note for you?
On the subject of sports players that can play two sports to elite level, I think Andy Murray might be coming after Diego's sort of mantle there with the fact that he's obviously playing a lot of golf. He played
So
tennis, I
much golf.
believe, for a bit of time. And now he's turned himself to the stage. This was announced last week, sort of out of the blue. I wasn't really expecting it, but he's on a
Yeah,
theatre tour. Um, he's gone from centre court to a show called Centre Stage. So I see what he did there.
clever.
Very clever. And he will be doing a tour next summer in the lead up to Wimbledon, which is, I mean, very exciting. He's being interviewed by a sports broadcaster, Andrew Cotter, who'll also be there. So I imagine it's a bit of an audience with Andy Murray sort of thing. I don't think he's going to be, a triple threat, singing, acting, dancing. Might get a few sketches. Hopefully, Judy will appear. But I mean, are you keen to go and see that one?
Oh, this sounds right up my street. I was though a little bit like you. I was a little bit caught off guard. I was sort of expecting to see, I don't know, at least some publicity in the build up to tickets. It was kind of just like, oh, by the way, tickets now on sale, and I was like, oh my god, and it felt a little bit like Glastonbury because
Yes.
I saw there weren't that many dates available, and I thought this is going to be very, very, very popular.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm really excited to see how it unfolds and see what stories I guess come out on the stage because he's had such a long career. There's going to be some tales there that even the hardest I think and ardent Andy Murray fans they're not going to know.
No, but you
What
should go and get another question in, Joel, because
I
remember
know
you
I
said you
should.
needed to have the
Yes.
last ever question.
I know. Yes. I would love to have another question with Andy Murray. I mean, I don't know how my emotions may be able to take it after Wimbledon, but yeah, it's definitely something to look
The
forward
tissues
to.
episode,
I'll give
everybody.
you a
Yeah.
box of
Yes.
tissues. Don't worry, Joel.
Unbranded.
Absolutely. I also saw that Annabelle Croft was doing a theatre tour next year, so they're
Is
all at
she?
it, it seems. Yeah.
Which
Just
one
got to
do you.
wait for
Uh,
Andy Murray to do Strictly
Kim,
next.
Kim,
Sign
do
him
you
up.
oh, I can
do
see
you
that
do you, do
happening.
you see Rafa doing a little center stage tour of all the venues in Spain? Maybe.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe a Spanish one, although I'm sure it would sell out if he went, to do selected
Ooh,
shows
global
across
tour,
Europe.
Arenas. Yeah.
I just don't know if that's his
stadium
vibe.
tour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe him and Federer together,
Yeah.
the
It's like
goats on
Oasis, isn't
tour.
it? Those two coming
Yeah.
together
Mm.
for that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Lots of time for that. But let's have a look at what's been going on in the kind of current active players on tour, because we have had Yannick Sinner winning the ATP Finals in Turin. It's his first ATP Finals title, and he beat Taylor Fritz 6-4, 6-4 in the final on Sunday. The first ever Italian champion of this event. So it's kind of been the icing on the cake, I think, to his stellar standout year, culminating in this title at home, obviously for him. And really, it was a very comfortable week for Yannick Sinner in Turin, wasn't it? And getting the job done in the final against Taylor Fritz, who, arguably had a very, very good week himself. Joel, how good was this from Sinner in Turin this week?
Yeah, I mean, he was head and shoulders, I think, above the rest of the pack. Really, he didn't drop a set, which hasn't happened in a long time at this event. It's usually very competitive, but this felt like a very dominant performance. And even in the final, where Taylor Fritz raised his level, I was impressed actually with how much he raised his level from their match in the group stage, but he just could not live with Yannick Sinner. And the fact that Fritz was not really getting anywhere near, breaking Sinner's serve, particularly in that second set, he didn't manufacture one break point. It just shows that Sinner was just almost in a class of his own at the event, and it was just so impressive from him. And as you said, sort of has capped a very stellar season, particularly for his trophy cabinet, because the number of titles he has got in it. I mean, an ATP Finals title, 3 Masters events, 2 ATP 500s, and of course 2 Grand Slams. Very, very impressive stuff.
Yeah, he's got a win rate for the year of 92%, which is fantastic. There's some other interesting stats for his season. He's never been beaten in straight sets this year for the whole of 2024. Really, it's a season that's kind of up there in the Novak Djokovic sort of esque, performances. And Chris, is this something? Do you think he can replicate this next season? Are we just going to expect this from now on, or is this, maybe a one off for Sinner?
I mean, I think there was a lot of positives and a lot of signs that he was going to do something really big early on in his career, and he's been building up to this. I think, the rise from, the US Open last year to this point has been pretty, astronomical in terms of how he's leveled up and how consistently he stayed at this level. I think that's probably the most impressive thing, is that it's not the case he's had one big result. He's won the Australian Open and then we didn't know where it would go. I don't think many people thought he'd be as dominant moving forward, especially because it's so hard to back that up. And he won the next tournament that he played and he never looked back, really. He's taken everything in his stride on and off the court. And if he can stay fit, you do think that he almost has this factory setting of just being so good. Like you don't lose, he doesn't lose in straight sets because he doesn't actually ever lower the level enough that he could almost lose in that manner. So I think the question that I have is not so much can he stay there, but can anyone catch up with him? Because there's quite a big gap, I think, in terms of those who consistently play as well as he does on the tour, and who can challenge it. Because, Fritz played some of the best tennis we've seen him ever play, and he lost to him twice in a week. And I think that's probably what I'm most interested in to see is who's going to up their level. Can Alcaraz counter it? And can Fritz kind of get there? Because right now he's not looking likely to actually get the win over him.
Yeah, Fritz is up now into the top 4, which is fantastic. And actually, him getting to the ATP finals, he was the first American male player, well, to get into the final, I think, since James Blake in 2006.
It's a long
it's
time
been
ago.
A
Yeah.
long, long time since they've had an American getting to the latter stages. What do you think Fritz can do to kind of elevate his game even higher to actually challenge Yannick Sinner in these sorts of matches on these sorts of stages? What's
Oh,
the
it's a
next
big
thing he can
question, isn't
add?
it, Joel? Is it?
Yeah, it's tough because, I think when you look at the final, I think in some regards Sinner and Fritz's games are very similar, and I think Fritz has got very solid foundations, particularly when it comes to his serve. But there are always question marks, I think, at the moment with his mobility and his athleticism, which I think Sinner has, showed he has the advantage on, but also in terms of variety as well. I feel like Fritz just maybe lacks a little bit of variety that can help unsettle those top level opponents like Yannick Sinner. And as a result, it almost felt like at times he was just feeding balls back for Sinner to take command of the point. One aspect I do think of Fritz's game he has improved this year has been his volleys and his net play. I think we've seen that, I say, improved over the last 12 months or so. But I think from the back of the court, I think he needs to be more aggressive and get on the front foot more, because I still think there are times where it just feels like, Sinner's just waiting to pull the trigger and Fritz doesn't necessarily have an answer to it.
Is it the return game, do we think? Because that's what's been so impressive about Sinner's year, is that he's been so much better on serve, but also so much better than everyone else on return. And I think given how few kind of break points were manufactured against him this week, I think he was only broken twice. I think once by Medvedev, once by de Minaur, not once by a player he played twice in Taylor Fritz. Is it that he's just serving so well that people can't necessarily kind of get a shot at breaking him? And then if you are also returning well, that pressure's on you. Maybe people aren't able to kind of necessarily keep that level because they're constantly knowing if they do get broken, there's a big chance that could be it for them. You blink and you miss it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do think with there's a due to that maybe that slight lack of variety, there's a lot of pressure on his serve because, as you said, maybe he doesn't get the opportunities or as much opportunities as he should be able to do on the return. So yeah, I don't certainly think that's something else he can work on in the future.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, Taylor Fritz has got a good record over Sasha Zverev of late. He's beaten him, I think, 4 times in a row, including in that last set tiebreak in the semi-final in Turin to get into the final. And Zverev will finish the season as the world number two. Alcaraz finishes as world number three, despite winning 2 slams this year.
That's a weird one.
It's which is a peculiar peculiarity of the ranking system. And there's some other players that didn't particularly have a great week in Turin. Daniel Medvedev, no title at all for him this season. We're talking about Sinner, who's got 8 titles. Daniel Medvedev, first time in a long time where he's not finished the season picking up a title at all. I mean, where's he going to be looking, going into next season? What do you think he needs to do to kind of resurrect his game, or dare I say, have a bit of a renaissance?
He's had these sorts of lulls before, though. He's had those moments where he's gone a little bit off the boil and then he has come back and reached a slam final. I think he's very resilient as a player, as a competitor. He does make players beat him. And I think that's why he still is so high up in the ranking still, because he does make a lot of players hit a lot of balls. And he's also able to be pretty aggressive himself. So I think he's got the game to stay there, but it is just those breakthrough moments that don't always come around that often. And especially with players like, Sinner taking him out in the final of the Australian Open. I think he also lost in the final of Indian Wells and hasn't had a final since then. He's spoken quite candidly about needing to find his form again, figuring out in the off season, making changes to his game. So I think he's motivated to find a solution. But at the same time, it feels like some of these players are moving up past him in a way that they weren't able to probably about a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of other players not necessarily at the races at the moment. Sinner capitalizing. Is there a danger that if everyone else doesn't quite up their level, that it's going to be a bit boring at the top? Or are we worried that Sinner might
Ooh.
start dominating and it's going to get a bit
What about like the
boring?
Federer years, Joel? Did you
No,
like them?
I don't think we're there just yet. I still
Okay.
think I still think it's very very exciting, and you still look at the Grand Slams that they were split 50-50, and I don't necessarily think we're at those Roger Federer levels yet. I do think though the season that Yannick Sinner has had just shows how impressive all those big three achievements, the fact that they were putting these types of seasons together year after year, it just I think puts that into perspective. But for me, I think it's very exciting at the moment. I guess the question I would put to you both is: do you feel like given the level of dominance, Chris, you were talking about,
Mm.
do you feel like the other players, Carlos Alcaraz included, are they feeding off scraps left by Yannick Sinner? Is this the state of play going into next season, or do you think it's still a little bit more balanced than that?
Oh, it might come down a little bit to the individual rivalries. I think for someone like Yannick Sinner, when he plays against Taylor Fritz, I think he really does believe he's going to get that win. I think it's the mental edge there. Whereas I feel like it's a bit more of a level playing field between Alcaraz and Sinner, because
Mm.
Alcaraz has beaten him in big moments at the Slams this year as well. He also did win in the final in Beijing, which was a big moment to show that he is still very much at the races across all of the different surfaces. So I think when you look at the individual matchups, it's maybe not necessarily as big a hurdle to beat Yannick Sinner as you might think, but not many people have done it. And one of the few people that have is Carlos Alcaraz. So I do think that he's the one who might be able to kind of push forward in this sense. But at the same time, Alcaraz seems to only really kind of go to the races at the big tournaments this year.
Mm.
So it's hard to know
Yeah.
if he will
I'm
get the ranking points to go past him, but he might win a
mm.
couple of slams next year.
I mean, I feel like the one thing that Carlos Alcaraz has is like he did not like looking at his whole season. He was injured for quite a bit of it, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of free ranking points. It feels like on the table for him. So yeah, to me, maybe I'm expecting that gap to close and that rivalry to continue to blossom. I mean, do you think there's anyone else that could break into the top eight that we might see in the tour finals in Turin next season, and also alternatively, who at their expense do you think they could replace?
think Jack
Oh, it's a tough
Draper.
one.
Jack Draper,
Hopefully Jack Draper. Yeah.
I think it's been a bit of a strange one when it comes to some of the players who qualified this year, because obviously Casper Ruud had a good run in Turin, but at the same time
Yeah.
had a very barren second half of the year following illness, not famously a fantastic indoor player. Andrei Rublev hasn't really had the form towards the end of this season either, picked up a Masters title. Diminar has had a great season, again, lots of injuries. So I'm not sure we're going to see the exact same lineup next year. I think we might see a player like Tsitsipas might get back into the mix again.
Shelton?
Shelton could definitely be up there. I mean, Kim, give us a name. Come on.
Arthur Fee?
That's a very good
TFO. I
one.
mean, there's a
Yes.
whole host that if they really put a consistent season together, could certainly be in these finals this time next year. But it's really consistency is key, isn't it? And but if a player is um got a lot of ranking points of which they can gain rather than starting from a high point only to drop
Yeah.
points over the season, then it's kind of everything on the up really. But I mean, Grigor Dimitrov is in at number 10. I'd love him to stay in the top 10. He's had a great season. I would like him to stay at the top for as long as he can. He's now a sort of elder statesman, almost aged 33. But he's one of the only players, along with Djokovic, in their 30s in the top 10. So I would like to see him stick around. And I mean, I'm curious to see what Djokovic will give us next year. Age
Yeah.
37, now 7 in the world. I don't know what to expect from him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he won the Australian
We
Open
probably will still be
again.
predicting it, won't we, if we're honest?
Do you think you'll
Yes.
see Djokovic in the tour finals top eight? Not necessarily playing the event, but do you think we'll see him in the top eight at the end of next season?
Yeah, I
Yes.
think so. You don't have to do as much as you might think to get in there, given how many of the big titles are being, won by the top three right now. So I think even if he only plays a half season and he hasn't played that much this year, there's still a very high chance he'll still qualify.
Absolutely. Let's see. Plenty of time to make further predictions as we roll into 2025. But let's move across now to what's going on in Malaga. There's been a lot of rain in Malaga, it's fair to say. They did actually have a weather warning, really nasty weather warning last Wednesday, which delayed the start of the Billie Jean King Cup finals. They had to delay the opening tie between Spain and Poland because of the heavy rain that fell. So just as well, we're not in Malaga, really. It would have been
Goodness,
chaos, I
yeah.
think,
I
even
was
trying to
going to
get
make a
there.
joke, Kim, and say that Storm Radicanu has taken over Malaga, but I don't think they gave this one a name, did they?
Not Storm Sanders.
Storm Sanders.
No.
Yes,
Or
that
Storm
would be much better.
Hunter,
Storm
I think
Hunter.
she's
Yes, as she's
known
now
as.
known. Yes, indeed.
But Team GB haven't let it stop them because they have been racing through the finals. The duo of Emma Raducanu and Katie Boulter winning in straight sets fashion over Canada, the defending champions, and previously over Germany in their opening tie. I mean, how impressed have you been with both of the girls? Because I don't know if we were expecting GB to reach the semi-final stage.
And to
Chris?
get it done so comprehensively. Sorry to get in there. I'm just getting so excited.
No, it's
That's all
it's
right.
been brilliant, hasn't it? And I think what's been really enjoyable about the whole thing is that it's the sort of tennis that we know that Emma and Katie Boulter can play. That they've turned up and they've brought it. And I think with Raducanu, much more of an unknown quantity. We saw sort of like a boot that she was wearing over her foot just a few weeks or a few days almost before she ended up playing. So again, I think it's a very interesting prospect for her because I think she thrives in these team environments. And it really was what we thought would be a springboard for her coming off that French tide. It feels like now one of the places she enjoys playing most is for her country. And I mean, what a number two to have. I mean, Emma Raducanu, Grand Slam champion, a player of real quality. And so I think that sets it up so that then the pressure is off each of the individual athletes, which has actually allowed them both to thrive because they do really believe that they have a great shot at winning and they've got such depth in their squad. I mean, the doubles players haven't even stepped onto the court yet. So maybe that's actually a risk that they haven't played any doubles this week if it does get tight at the semi-finals.
Yeah, I mean, the semi-final, they're up against Slovakia, which
Yes,
it sounds winnable.
it
I don't want to
does.
underestimate Slovakia. They did beat the Americans, but where is your head at going into that tie? Is there anyone in the Slovakian team that is going to trouble Balta and Raducanu in the form that they've been in so far?
Ooh, I mean, Schmidova, she's a very handy player. She made it to the It was the semi-finals of the Olympics, but unfortunately, she did actually lose to Iga Swiatek, so she actually left the Olympics with nothing. But she's always been a great player. We've seen her play, Joel, many times at the Billie Jean King
Mm.
Cup finals. She
Many
really
late
does
nights,
many late nights.
early
It's just,
mornings.
yeah, and I mean a very big upset. I think it definitely has helped us. There's a few other players who've kind of had little breakout years, but again, big shock. You shouldn't underestimate the fact that when you play for your country, anything can happen. Anyone can win, anyone can lose. And although we may be the favourites going into that one, I think that can actually change your mentality completely. And it's about getting the win, ugly, beautiful, or however, it's about getting the W.
Just get the W. The other semi-final is actually taking place right now. It's Poland against Italy. Italy have taken a 1-0 lead through Bronzetti beating Magda Linette. And it's
Oh, that's
Świątek against Paulini on court right now. So Świątek's got to try and keep Poland and their hopes alive by beating Paulini.
well.
As
Do
we
you see her
see.
in the doubles? I actually tuned in for this one. I think it was very exciting because seeing Iga in this sort of format, we haven't seen her at the finals for I think it's been a couple of years now
Yeah.
potentially, and she took on the world number one at doubles, and she came out on top, having just played her singles match. So I think it's just great to see her competing and fighting like this and showing that what I've always say, Joel, is that the number one in doubles, well, number one in singles would always be the number one in doubles. I
Yeah.
feel like that
Yeah.
the top singles
Mm.
players really would make the best doubles players because, I mean, that's a fantastic result because Iga and her partner had not played together before and have she's not really played doubles on the tour this year at all. So
And
really
that was
impressive.
a late match as well.
It was like
We
2 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah, it was because I think both singles matches went long, and obviously it set up a deciding doubles because it was one apiece. And yeah, to do it at that time, it's no easy feat. But it does look like Iga Swiatek is getting back into some sort of form because she also had a good win against Badosa as well,
Yes.
and Spain in 3 sets. Noskova always a handy competitor in singles. So yeah, it's nice to see. I think Iga Swiatek getting back to, as I say, playing
Winning
some pretty
ways.
winning ways. Exactly. Where do you stand then on the final four? Poland, Italy, GB, Slovakia. I don't want to jinx anything by talking about GB anymore. But yeah, Iga Swiatek, I feel like and Poland are going to feel well. I mean, I know they're 1-0 down at the moment. I mean, who knows? Actually, maybe it's not Poland.
It's going to
I
be
think
tough, isn't it?
Italy. I think Italy GB with Italy winning the final.
I
I
think
don't know.
I think that we have a better chance of winning if Italy do beat Poland.
Oh, okay.
I do think that Emma being number two, I think she will pick up
Mm.
that tie if they do make it to the final. I think it's a pretty tough ask for Katie Boulter to take out Iga Swiatek, but she pushed Paulini. She did
Yeah.
her best at
Yeah.
Eastbourne against her. Paulini played brilliantly that day, so I think it's anyone's. I think of those three teams, I am sort of counting out Slovakia, just
To our
because
peril.
I know. And then next week I'll have to join and say, "Oh, Slovakia! I should have seen it coming." I'll have the Billie Jean King Cup spoon of shame as well.
Well, let's see how it all unfolds. We'll be back next week, obviously, to round up the final bits from Malaga. Let's take a quick break now, but do join us in the second half where we'll be looking at Billie Jean King advocating for a new scoring system in tennis. Joel has another edition of Par for the Courts for us. And we also look ahead to the Davis Cup finals as Rafa readies himself for one final time out on the court. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast. And as always, it's time to kick off the second half with another game. So, Joel, you've got a par for the courts for Chris, I, and the listeners again.
I'm rolling
Over
up my
to you.
sleeves. Here we go.
I'm getting the tissues out for my loss, inevitably.
Well, Kim, I mean, I feel like you came very close last week to finally usurping Chris. You had some great names.
Yeah, all the
At the
answers,
end.
just not
Too
in the
late,
right
though.
order.
The end. Yeah, exactly. But this Par for the Courts is another edition of highest number wins,
Mm.
which is where I am going to give you the category, and you're going to tell me how many correct answers you think you can give, and it's the person who gives the highest number who wins. But the jeopardy, if they get a name wrong, the other person wins. So,
Right.
with that in mind, the topic for this edition of Par for the Courts. It is ATP finals related, and we're going to go back. We're going to go back to our to our formative years, let's say 2009, and this was the first year the ATP finals, the ATP World Tour finals, was at the O2 Arena in London. I would like you to tell me how many of those eight who played, give me a little hint there, who played in that tournament, in that World Tour finals, in the 2009 ATP World Tour finals, how many
My
played in that
goodness.
event?
Joel,
Can you name?
I'm not sure that Kim and I are
Right.
going to have different answers here.
I went to this event.
Oh, did you?
I did go to a few sessions.
Oh, I didn't
It was very
actually know this, Chris. I'm
exciting
going to hold
because
my.
it
I
was the
did not
first
know
year.
this.
It was in
If I
London.
had known this, I
Okay, right.
may have chosen a different.
Well,
a
can I
different
However,
guess
year.
a
I may
number
not-
first then?
Okay.
I may not get them all right, so
Okay.
I might have forgotten.
Chris, let's go to you first. How many
I'm
how many
nervous
names do you think
now.
you can give?
How confident are you feeling, Kim?
I think I could get.
No, Kim, it's
Okay,
not.
oh,
No,
sorry.
Kim,
Oh, sorry.
it's not up for you to
I think
decide
I
yet.
well, I think I can get. I think I can get five. I was going to say, so I want Kim to say six. I want to
Okay.
push her to one
Oh,
more than
okay,
she
I'll
feels
go.
comfortable.
I'll go
How
for
many-
6. I'll
Oh,
go
here
for
we
6.
go. Here we go. Kim, you're in
Par
the
is six,
par is 6.
Oh.
Kim, you are in the driving seat.
and Kim,
6.
go for the obvious ones first because that's where you go wrong sometimes.
So is it my
6.
turn to just go
Yeah.
and try and get 6?
So Kim,
oh gosh.
6 correct answers, and you defeat Chris.
But the names, yeah.
For an event that you were at, no less.
You
Yeah,
really-
but not all the sessions. But
you said you went
okay.
to a lot though. You did say that.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Shall I go?
2009
Yes.
ATP World Tour Finals. Who's your first player?
Rafa Nadal.
That is correct. Yes, Rafael Nadal is one of those 8.
Well, we know he didn't win it.
Yes, sadly. Roger Federer.
Correct. Yes, that is 2 correct answers.
Nikolai Davydenko.
What? You love a Russian, Kim?
Don't think
That
that's
is-
appropriate to say these days.
No, sorry. As in, you always pick the Russian names to
Oh.
answer.
Yes,
That
that
is
is true.
That is a correct answer. A bit of a rogue one for a third guess, but yes, that's 3 correct answers. So you're already halfway there.
Robin Soderling. I'm sure he
Going
was
for
there.
all the niche answers here. That is correct. Very
Kim.
good. 4 out of 6.
This is where it gets a bit because I'm like, do I go for the obvious?
Yes, you should, Kim.
I thought these were the difficult ones.
Davydenko and Soderling.
David Ferrer. Oh, I don't know about him actually.
David Ferrer. That's an incorrect
Oh,
answer,
no.
Kim.
Why
I've
have
done
you
it
said
again.
Novak
Kim,
Djokovic?
how
I know.
have you-
I was going to say Djokovic and Murray.
Why didn't you?
Well,
Would
because
they
I
have been
thought
right?
then
Yes.
Djokovic and Murray
Oh,
would
no.
have got you
Kim.
the 6.
Wait,
I'm
so
trying to be too niche for my
so-
own good.
You're
Who
trying
else
to be
was
too
there?
clever.
Was it Verdasco
Too
was there
clever.
instead?
It was Fernando.
There was another Spaniard.
Verdasco.
Yes.
Kim.
Yeah. And
I was going to think, was Del Potro there?
that was the final one. Del
Del
Potro.
Yeah, he
who
was on my
reached
mind as well.
The
Who won?
final. Davydenko defeated Del Potro in the
wow.
final. To think the big 4, big 3 were there, and none of them got to the final. Yeah.
I wasn't, because I don't remember seeing Murray or Djokovic there, you see. So I was sort of, I thought, oh, they must have been, but I didn't go to I went to Davydenko match
Oh,
against
Kim,
Rafa,
I thought you
think,
had
and
it.
That's
I
why I was.
thought
Well,
you
Kim
had
did
it.
have it, but the same thing happened as last week, right? Yeah.
Yes.
There was a player who did qualify who didn't play due to a leg injury. Any ideas?
Dimitrov? No.
Nope. This player was replaced by Soderling.
Monfils?
Oh.
Tsonga? No.
Nope.
Simon?
Nope.
Wouldn't have been Dimitrov, would it?
Andy Roddick. Andy
Oh,
Roddick
wow.
yeah, was he
qualified
still
for the
around?
tournament, but was replaced by Soling. And your two alternates, Kim, you said one of them, Joe Wilfred Songa, and the other was Ivan Lubicic.
Oh, blimey.
So there you go.
Oh, I need to correct my tactic for this. Can we do one next week, Joel, and I'll get third time
Yes.
lucky?
Go for the obvious, Kim. I would say also slightly unfair on Andy Roddick. Was he still around? I think didn't he make the final of Wimbledon that year? Almost beat
Oh, yeah,
Federer.
that is true.
I feel like he's still
Sorry.
in his prime at that point, Kim.
Sorry, A-Rod.
In case he's
Thanks,
listening.
thanks, Joel, for another excellent path of the courts. Listeners, I hope you did better than I did there. Let's dip into the mailbag now because Stephen Ranking got in touch with us on email. Stephen Ranking, thank you very much. It's lovely to hear from you. Stephen has asked us a question, a very interesting question. He said, in an interview this week, Billie Jean King has said that she would like the tennis scoring system to be simplified and for players to have a number and a name on the back of their shirts. Do you agree? Are there any other big changes you would like to make to the game? So basically, the scoring system that Billie Jean King was alluding to there was wanting to essentially do away with the kind of 15, 30, 40 points and just do like 1, 2, 3, 4, essentially, a bit like UTS. So what do we make of this? Is this something you guys would be keen on at all? Joel's
No,
shaking his head.
no.
You want to go first?
Yes.
I'll just quickly. I mean, I will say on the scoring system, I feel like there's lots of other things that need to be fixed in tennis, and this isn't one of them. I don't see this
Mm,
being an issue. This is the first thing I've ever heard of it. I don't feel like if it goes back to the old saying of if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I just don't see this being an issue. And to me, this is almost like dumbing down tennis. And again, I don't think it's I don't actually think it's necessary. Um, so I would be, and it's quite to me, it's quite radical, and I would be, yeah, quite against it.
mm. Chris, are you in concurrence with Joel there?
I mean, this is a rare occurrence that I'm in concurrence with Joel because
Sorry, I never use that word
Do
normally.
you
I don't know why I said
yes,
concurrence.
yes, I thought I had to repeat it just to double check. But no, I agree with Joel. I do think it does feel like the dumbing down of tennis because I think some of the issues are more issues if you're there and don't know what you're watching, as opposed to you're already interested if you're having to figure out it's 15, 30, and 40. And I mean, some players do wear the same outfits with the same sponsor, but I don't think it causes too much confusion because they do obviously call out the score and who's winning it at those different times. So I do think it's radical, but I think the bigger issues are probably around how to make matches shorter. That's a big thing. Maybe it would be moving to 3 sets. That's probably something people are talking more about at slams. Make it more watchable in the UTS format of having a set amount of time to watch. You know, you have quarters. Those are sort of things that I think on the radical side of things could make a difference to tennis and getting young people participating. But I don't think they need to change the format of the professional tennis. I think that's very much should be how it is.
I
Yeah.
think it'd make things more confusing because how would you call like tie breaks versus games?
Also,
And
changing it, we'll all
points.
get confused anyway.
It will just make things. I
What
think
do
it
you
needs
think,
to be
Kim?
layered. Yeah.
No, I agree. I like my 15, 30, 40. It doesn't make sense
Yeah,
to
I don't
someone
understand it,
new
but I
to the
like it.
game,
Hmm.
but it's cool. I think the other suggestion to have name on the back of the shirts is fine. I don't find that offensive. Not sure about a number. I don't know what the number would add. Would it be their world ranking, I suppose? But then you'd have to be getting a lot of numbers put onto shirts, so that's going to be a bit of a faff
Yeah,
for lower
true.
ranked players, especially to have to
I
Yeah, it would
I'd love
be.
to
number on their
see.
shirt.
I'd love to see names on the back of shirts, particularly I think for Davis Cup or Billie Jean King Cup ties. I don't. I know we have. I know we have countries on the back of shirts or on just on the shirts in general. But I do think it would add a nice touch in that environment.
I've never necessarily been such a big fan just because I think if it was me, it would say knee bone on the back. And I'm not sure that I'd want to draw more attention to that or I'd be
Okay.
able to wear that shirt, if I was out and about. At least they can wear their match kit wherever without being like branded by their name. But I would quite like it from a sponsorship perspective because I do like that about professional cycling. They're in teams. That's quite fun. And I think if we do want to get more money into it and make it a bit more exciting that way, you could almost make a bit more of the, Team Adidas, Team Nike. That could be quite fun. But
Mm.
I mean, these aren't things I think about or think need to be
No.
put into place. They're just because we've been asked the question.
So Billie Jean King almost sort of trying to, I don't know, Americanize it, I think, with the number and the names. It's putting another sports kind of vibe onto tennis. I'm not sure it's needed.
Bit of a
I think like you said,
bastardization. Yeah.
Mm.
there are other things to pursue and put energy into changing above these kind of things. So,
Mm.
um, fair play to her. Obviously, she's entitled to having
Yeah.
those
It's
thoughts,
nice
but
that she does want
it's
to,
not from us, I think.
get more people in. I think that sentiment is something that's very admirable. And I think for someone who is at her stage of her life, I think it's great to have so much like refreshing energy towards these things. So I think that is something we aren't just saying we don't like your ideas. We're very much saying we love the fact that she's looking at ways that she can get more people into the sport. And I think people should think about that. It's just we don't necessarily think these are the tactics that are going to move the needle.
Precisely. Well, last but not least for today, we do have our preview of the Davis Cup finals also taking place in Malaga, and they get underway tomorrow with the Netherlands against Spain as the opening tie. I think it's
Bit of a
4
low
p.m.
key
British
start
time.
to the event, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
tickets are
no
quite cheap
one's-
now, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like no tickets available. No tickets have sold. No one's
Yes.
really bothered about it because no one exciting is playing.
Yeah,
Just someone
no.
called Rafa Nadal.
Yeah.
But yes, do we think he's going to be stepping to the court tomorrow? Do we think Roger Federer is going to be in attendance? Because there are rumours that he might turn
He's
up
got
as
to be
well.
there, surely.
I mean, Rafa was there for Roger in Laver Cup. I feel like he's got to return the favour.
Well, it would be rude not to, wouldn't it?
Djokovic, I think, will probably be there as well. Most likely, he did say he would be there if there was a ceremony. Um, so likely he will also be there, you would think.
Will they do the ceremony regardless? If Spain win and go through, will they still do it, or will they delay that till Thursday? Or if they've got dignitaries arriving, other people, are they going to do it regardless? It's a bit like the Andy Murray at Wimbledon. It's kind of like when do we do it? Do we do it after the singles, after the doubles?
When do you
Is
get
he
the
going to play the
banners out?
doubles?
Yes.
Well, Rafa has said, "I'm not here for retiring. I'm here to help the team win," which makes you think that it's like it's an almost like an afterthought, or it's not even in his process at the moment. So
Hmm.
maybe
And
if it was
who-
up to him, it would be like last on the agenda.
Yeah, I think, and from the way that he's been acting, he's very much acting like he is just a member of the team. You've seen him in the team pictures. He's kind of very much saying that he isn't going to do, one-to-one press. He's here for a team event. Obviously, there will be the press conferences that he'll have to do. But I think it's maybe quite a nice way for him to enjoy his last event, taking off a bit of that intense pressure that exists if this were to be a Grand Slam. I think that's a huge way to go. And I think for Andy Murray, it's how he wanted to go. But maybe this isn't always what Nadal had thought he would look. Well, it would look like ending his career at the Davis Cup, but it's so fitting when we think about 2004. And obviously, we do have a podcast coming out where we recap some of his amazing and iconic moments. We do a top 10 rundown, and that will be coming out to accompany. So even if the ceremony for his retirement hasn't happened, you can come and listen to our retirement episode for Nadal. We'll make sure that we give a fantastic send off for him.
Yes. I mean, slight, truth. We have already recorded it, actually, haven't we?
Don't out me,
I
Kim.
think.
Him.
But in preparation,
If he
but we
wins,
will
we'll
be-
need to change it, right?
well, yeah, we'll have to because it's a top
Do
10.
we think
greatest
that's a
moments,
possibility?
so we'll
Do we
have to
think that's
change
a
that if so.
possibility? I mean,
Ooh,
getting to the tennis,
the predictions,
say
yes.
it is a knockout, straight knockout.
Mm.
Netherlands, Spain, Germany, Canada, USA, Australia, Italy, Argentina. And I say Italy have Yannick Sinner available. Where do we see this netting out? And does Yannick Sinner with Italy change things?
Yes.
I think it does, doesn't it?
Italy might well defend their title and do a clean sweep of both team cups potentially.
Oh,
I think if
okay.
Sinner's in town.
You think double success then in Malaga for Italy?
Mm.
That is a
think it
great
might be.
prediction, Kim. I like that. I can see that happening. And I think they've obviously had team success. Sara Irani's had some success there. Alcaraz took a silver medal. So I think it will be interesting to see how they do some of the doubles and rotation for Spain. I think Sinner has shown last year that he can do double duty every day. You know, he was an absolute force in the doubles as well. So I think for Spain, I think I can see them making the final, but I'm not sure that they have the combinations that will necessarily give them the 2 victory points that they need.
Yeah, I wouldn't underestimate the Netherlands. In all honesty,
Kim, you always do
I'm not
this. You don't want to
sure
jinx it, but surely
that's
you
an
think
easy
Spain are going to
one.
come through.
I don't
Greek
know.
Spore is a party pooper. Is that what you're saying?
Is Botic
Yeah,
involved?
I'd be wary of Griekspoor, I have to say.
Be wary
But
of Greek sport.
Kim,
Yeah.
wow. This is
Okay.
not the Rafa send off I was sort of expecting from you.
you
Be
know, I could
wary
never
of Greek
predict.
Spore.
I could never predict like Rafa and Spain. It's like putting the curse on it.
Be wary of
if
the
I'm like,
22
oh, they'll
Grand
easily
Slam
win.
titles. Yeah.
I mean, Alcaraz is also there. So is there
True. Yeah.
again? Could we get a bonus Sincaraz in the final? Could you see
Ooh.
Spain versus Italy?
And Massetti Dal, Berrettini Dal. I don't know.
Maybe.
Could
Maybe.
happen. Could happen.
Yeah.
Yes, I was just trying to think of other name combinations.
Will
there.
anyone take a set of Yannick Sinner? Is this the last chance? I can't see it
Oh, I
happening.
can't. If he plays, I still think it's an if.
He'll
Depends
play
on
the
his
final.
body.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, he didn't drop a set. It doesn't feel like he's running on fumes.
He
at the
doesn't even
moment.
need to play 3 sets, so it should be quite easy for
No,
him then.
no.
Yeah.
So Kim, you're
Yeah.
going Italy. Chris, you going Italy as well?
I think I have to go Italy, but I'd love it if Spain won. I think I would just be beside myself with joy for Nadal in that
With
one.
the tissues. I'll be
Yeah,
waving the tissues.
I actually
in
would.
the
I
air.
would cry for that. I love the poetic side of it for sure.
I'm going to go Australia. I think they have a very good team at the moment, and I think they've got the X factor in the doubles, which I think will
That is true.
could
Yeah.
help them. So,
Do they? Are they playing? I hope so.
Yeah, is it? Hang on, isn't it? We've
Is
not
it
got back-
Purcell
Yeah.
or is it which one of the team is playing?
Well, they have got very
Gold
good depth
medalists
in
as
doubles.
well in the doubles. We have
So, I mean, they've got a lot to choose from in the doubles.
Matt
haven't they?
Ebden, obviously gold medalist. He could be playing. Almost
Jordan
more.
Ebden
Thompson.
Purcell. That's it. Epsom
It
Purcell.
is Ebden Purcell.
Ah,
yeah.
yes. Okay.
So,
So Thompson isn't making it. So that could be interesting. They don't always play together, but they have won a Wimbledon title together. So we'll have to see, Joel, won't we?
We'll see. We'll see. We shall see. But yeah, we are coming to the end of the season, but we have so much more tennis still to look forward to. And we've got our Rafael Nadal top 10 countdown coming out later in the week. So do look out for that bonus content from Tennis Weekly HQ. It is certainly not one to be missed, but we're going to end our latest tour catch up there. Listeners, I do hope you've enjoyed our latest episode of the Tennis Weekly podcast. Remember to subscribe to us to stay up to date on all the action still to come from the ATP and WTA tours.
We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all major podcasting platforms out there. And if you like what you're hearing, then make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, as well as a like and subscribe to us on YouTube.
You can also follow us on social media or email the show. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and X. And the handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. And on YouTube, that will be a video which features clips as well from those top moments from Rafa. So if
We're
you're
going all out.
listening, yes, all out. If you're listening and you'd also like the accompaniment with the video moments, then do also make sure you check that out because it is so lovely to see those moments as well. Because sometimes I'm not sure my memory is quite as good when it comes to some of those early moments when we cast our mind back all the way to 2004. But you can find all of that on our social channels, as I've just mentioned. You can also purchase Tennis Weekly merch. We are on some of our last items, so do get them whilst you still can. That's at etsy.com/shop/Tennis Weekly podcast. You can email us at tennisweeklypod@gmail.com or do check out our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we will be back next week for another tour catch up. So I hope you can join us for that. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from Kim.
Adios.
It's goodbye from Chris.
Adios.
And I guess it's goodbye or adios from me. Adios. We'll see you again soon.